So, over the last week, I've noticed that the one word that I keep reading about, and I keep seeing it in the Bible, but also in a couple of other books that I've been reading, is the word persistence. Now, persistence is something that often gets coined in my life through stubbornness, right? Like, my girlfriend might come to me and say, well, you're very stubborn. You're as stubborn as a goat, right? Like my star sign is Capricorn, and that's why she relates the stubbornness to being a goat. But if other people aren't telling you that you're being stubborn, a lot of the time that just shows that you're not actually sticking to your goals. And other people are able to dictate what you do and how you do it. And so, if you're looking to really achieve some level of success, you have to realize that you have to be stubborn. You have to be someone that doesn't maybe do something with ifs or buts and kind of ways to skirt around you actually doing the thing that you want to do. But every single time you set intentions, you do them non-negotiably. I know so many guys that want to see results in the gym, that want to make some kind of progress, but what ends up happening is they start to negotiate with themselves. They start to tell themselves different stories. Like your mind is the best salesman that you really have to overcome in your life because it knows exactly where you start to like say yes to things and when you kind of don't actually follow through on your words. So you have to like start recognizing the patterns to where, every single time I do this activity, such as maybe it's video games or scroll social media or watch corn or whatever it is, right? Like, what are the things that trigger you to do those actions and then sort of send you down a spiral? And if you can start to avoid the triggers that get you to take those negative actions, then you can start actually fixing your life and really making sure that you can always follow through on your word. So if there's two athletes that are competing with each other, the person who is more stubborn in that bout, let's say it's a boxing fight, right? The person who is more persistent and stubborn about really showing up and making sure that they do absolutely everything and is showing up no matter what happens, right? It could be raining, it could be snowing, it could be really, really difficult. They could be sore, they could be like, relate this stuff to yourself. When you're in the gym and you come home and you're tired and you want to sleep, but you even got a bit injured, right? Are you showing up for yourself? Are you going into the kitchen, making yourself a meal, even when you feel like just, shutting down? Like, are you really going the extra mile, or are you just brushing your teeth and turning off the lights and scrolling on your phone for a couple of hours until you fall asleep? Right? Like, there's a big difference between the two there. Because the guy who's persistent, he shows up every single day, he goes the extra mile. And when you do that consistently and you go the extra mile, you're not just noticing 1 or 5% increases in your productivity. You're not just noticing small adjustments. You're actually creating a completely different identity. And really, your identity is what is going to create your end result. And so if you can truly take control of where your mind goes to in those moments when you need to, double down on what it is that you have to do, then you can really change your life and you can make sure that you get the end result. But if you're someone that always, second guesses, or you're someone that always allows yourself to, get the better of yourself and your mind always wins, then that's something that you have to fix. So, something that I never realized is that you need to decide sometimes whether to really maintain that persistence and when to actually just let go. And when I started going to the gym, there was a couple of moments when I needed to let go of set like different things. Like if there are certain like habits that you do that don't actually serve your goal. And as human beings, it's really difficult for us to let go of habits. We tend to stay in the same kind of habitual cycles where we continue doing certain things even though they're bad for us, just because we've always done it. And when you're trying to change yourself and you're trying to level up, you have to realize that you can't level all areas up at the same exact time. And so when you're trying to optimize for a certain goal, you really have to be okay with, allowing other things to be let go of. I'll give an example. Now that I'm focusing more on my business, I've decided to no longer track calories, for example. I'm starting to focus my time more on eating clean all the time. So that way my recovery is the best that it can be. And that way I'm really getting the best nutritional value without spending so much time tracking and being so focused on something that is really creating an incremental difference in my life. I'm trying to build something that is going to create a way larger difference. And so if you're someone that right now is trying to get in shape, then obviously tracking calories is something that is really, really important for you to do. But if you're someone that is focused on another area of your life where you need to be a bit more intentional about it, then I would say start looking at areas where you can start stripping away certain habits or certain activities that you're doing. Not every single activity that you're currently doing is actually useful and beneficial for the goals that you're trying to achieve right now. And I think a big one for me was spending too much time on my phone. I would spend hours upon hours listening to content, scrolling, like just too much time on social media. And so recently I've decided to just completely uninstall absolutely everything to allow my mind to think. I think a lot of us run away from allowing us to process things truly and think for ourselves, to be able to kind of have, like, I have so many books on the bookshelf, for example, and I haven't read everything. I've been taking more and more steps to read stuff more and more as time goes on. But what I've noticed is that as soon as I've stripped away the social media, it's allowed me to now process my thoughts better and articulate myself even better than it was when I was scrolling. And I was so much in that space where I'm just being fed with information all the time, and I'd never really had a moment to process that information that I was being fed. And that's really the problem with social media, and why I would highly, highly recommend that a lot of you guys start to step away from social media and even get off it like entirely. A lot of my clients that come to me who are like 30 or 35% body fat, they tend to give up faster. The reason why is because, not because of the obvious, the fact that they're overweight, but because they don't see the results as fast as the people who are lighter. The reason why is because if you're going from 30% body fat to, let's say, 20% body fat, like, yes, you are gonna see some kind of difference in terms of the amount of fat that's actually on you. But when you're at like the lower percentage of body fat, it's like a very stark and drastic difference in terms of the way that you look that really motivates people to keep going and keep pushing for more. Like when you go from 15% body fat to like 10% body fat, the difference there is really big, because then you start seeing, bicep veins, you start seeing your abs showing a bit more, and you start seeing more like muscle definition overall. But when you just go from 30% to 20%, you don't actually get the physique that you really, really want. And so the biggest thing here has always been persistence. It's always shown up within my clients' lives, but also in my life. Like, how persistent am I willing to be when the results don't show up? How persistent am I willing to go? How concrete in my mind is my imagination to believe that what I'm doing right now is going to get me the end result? And being able to stick to that and being able to just show up no matter what happens on the external, and continue to stay internal and truly believe internally that I'm doing absolutely everything I should be doing, is what gets me the result in the end. If you can brainwash yourself to stay persistent, and you can block out anything external and actually focus your efforts internally to really make sure that your mindset is in the right place, then you will always be able to get the result done.